I don't. It wasn't that, but I'm not going to get into specifically what it was.
Have you and Andrew discussed the kicker situation?
For my friends at WeatherSteel Home Services, is your home in need of a facelift? New siding from WeatherSteel can give you that new home look without the hassle of moving. WeatherSeal's insulated foam siding will increase the value of your home, improve your curb appeal, and save money on your energy bills. Plus, save more with WeatherSeal's 8-year, 0 interest. 7 years, 0 interest. They're my guys. I should know that by now. 7 years, 0 interest financing. Give them a call today. Free design consultation. Get that brand new home look before the end of the year. Call 877-351-SEAL or visit WeatherSealHomeservices.com on that front. As we bring in the good Dr. Z with some of the news around the team, and there's a lot going on here. And some of this stuff came out yesterday as soon as we were off the air, right around 3 o'clock, in terms of the reserve injured list and some of the things there. And you actually kind of gave a little bit of foreshadowing to what that could look like yesterday on the show. But I think let's start on a positive front, and let's start with Tack McKinley, because that is kind of the headline, I would say.
It is, and Kevin Stefanski letting it be known that he's been back for a few days now. And if you listened last week and you paid attention to the scores, there was a confidence to that he will be back sooner rather than later that was said, because, in fact, he was back. So Tack is back,
he would be.
And that is tremendous news for the Browns. I cannot stress how excited they were from what they saw from him early in camp, and that he is back now, and they have big plans for him. Joe Woods has big plans for Tack McKinley in this defense, and one of the things that they really are excited about is the opportunity to put Tack McKinley on one side, Miles and Clowney on the other, and Malik Jackson in the middle, and just get after quarterbacks. And the Browns, Tack is a big part of that. And what we've seen in the preseason, while Joe Jackson has flashed some, the drop-off between our top 3 defensive ends and the rest of that room is significant. And if you were down to 2 without Tack, that would have been a big deal. And so getting him back, I think, is massive for this team. I'm telling you right now, we can all – I'm sticking with it. I think he's going to set a career high in sacks this season. And
what would that number be?
Career high for him would be 8. But I think he could go – I think he's got double-digit potential with the fact that we're going to be ahead a lot, that he is going to be on the field in obvious passing situations a lot for the Browns. Again, he's got to get there, and he was here before and wasn't able to stay here. So we got to keep that going. But Tack McKinley, I think, is very important to what we want to do defensively, especially against the pass.
Yeah, certainly, and that's a big part of it. Coach mentioned some other things, and certainly another one that's going to grab a little bit of attention is JOK, who did not practice today, had a weight room accident, needed stitches in his head, but Coach said in the presser that he is fine and ready to go. But that is certainly something that is going to cause some alarm bells anytime you see someone requiring stitches. But just a weight room accident, nothing more. He'll be fine going forward, Z.
Yeah. Good news there, and we talked yesterday on the show. JOK likes to lift heavy weights, and we're not sure what happened, obviously. The good news is it is nothing serious. I'm sure it was scary in the moment, but fortunately nothing serious for JOK, who really likes to get after it. He likes to get himself as strong as he possibly can to deal with, the offensive linemen who are going to be trying to come at him. And as we'll hear from John Johnson later on, you're playing in a big boy division with big tight ends and fullbacks running around. Patrick Ricard, one of the biggest guys you'll see in the league, is that fullback for the Ravens. So he wants that strength to be able to deal with those guys, as well as his quickness to move around. But I'm glad that he is going to be okay. That's obviously big news.
Big news there. All right, let's go through the cut down that had to happen before today at 4 o'clock. The reserve injured list: Connor Davis, Montrell Meander, Cody Parkey, I think probably the headline grabber of that one with the injury to Cody. And then waived Alexander Hollins and Alex Taylor. Also reports of Robert Jackson being waived as well. So that's where we stand at this point, Z. As you look at those, Parkey's the one that I was completely unaware. I mean, I'm guessing you weren't, but that he had any sort of injury issue at all.
Well, being on the sideline for the game, I knew that he had been in the tent, and I noticed that after his initial, I think it was his initial extra point that he kicked, he did not kick again. It was all Chase McLaughlin. So I had hoped he was okay, because putting him on IR now means that his season with the Browns anyway is over.
Yeah.
He is not eligible to come off of that injured reserve for the Browns, so that means that Chase McLaughlin is your kicker. Now, neither kicker has missed yet in the preseason, They both have kicked it well, and you said who got your special teams game ball. I gave it to Chase because I thought that 49-yarder into the dog pound was particularly impressive. Well, now he is the Browns kicker. And we kind of went through. We knew Montrell was hurt. We knew Alex Hollins has been hurt. We knew Alex Taylor was hurt, and so we were able to kind of get a lot of those names ahead of time, just figuring out. And that's the thing with these 5 cut downs at a time, is often injuries make it kind of easy. If a guy's not going to be available, that's who's going to get waived at that moment.
Sure.
And for Alex Taylor, waived with that injury designation, that means this is what the Dolphins did with Curtis Weaver a year ago. We've already done it with Keandre Thomas. If they clear waivers, they just revert back to your IR. So it is likely that Alex Taylor will be coming back to the Browns here as well. But and Robert Jackson, you feel bad for him. The guy had been here for a little while. Nice player, good size, good on special teams. But things kind of started to unravel, I think, when he was forced in the starting lineup against Pittsburgh late in the year. And he had a rough start to the preseason, unfortunately. It felt like the Jags in this game, the Giants picked on him quite a bit. And so I think his time with the Browns has come to an end. And I think part of that also has to do with the real emergence of A.J. Green, who I think has taken leaps and bounds. And we'll talk with the assistant DB coach, Brandon Lynch. Oh, it's a JYD. He's just strutting. He's on a call. He's got a blazer on. He's got the pants that look great. He's in like some nice slacks. And then he's got those beautiful brown shoes with the white bottom. It's a power. And he's got the ear pods in, so he's on a call. He's transacting business.
Oh, my gosh, pods.
It's
What's
incredible.
The tone? What's the hue? What's the color?
It's like a Carolina blue blazer. Which
of course it is. Oh, my God.
It was resplendent, to be honest. I had blazer envy. And somebody who doesn't have a lot of blazers in my collection. I'm more of a suit guy.
Oh, I love a blazer. I'm a blazer guy.
Oh, I know you are.
Let me ask you this. What was the shoe a cognac?
I would call it looked to me kind of like, they call it that English brown. So
okay,
it
like
wasn't
a more darker, true, deeper brown, not as much of a burnt
more
orange
lighter,
leather brown.
Lighter, not
lighter.
Red. Yeah, kind of that tan, that English tan, like Cole Haan. It's not a Cole Haan, obviously, but it looks like that. That's what they call it on the Cole Haan
like
side.
A burnt orange, maybe a burnt orange kind of brownish University of Texas color. I think it might be cognac.
Okay.
I think it might be cognac.
Okay.
I think it
a little Courvoisier.
Yeah, I like it. I like it. Might be bourbon. Knowing him, it might be bourbon colored.
It could
be
bourbon.
be how it is.
Yeah, it could be a nice nice bourbon.
I can't wait. I can't wait to see him again.
It's kind of honestly.
I can't wait to it.
What's the Yippee-Ki-Yay?
Oh yeah, sure.
Which is a little lighter.
That color.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm. Well, okay. I know exactly what you're talking about. Can't get that anymore. They don't. Very limited release, but it was a good one when it was out there.
Well, we shared a glass of that in Indianapolis, if I'm not mistaken.
Boy, that was a treat, wasn't
it? Real treat.
Back in the good old days?
Yeah.
Back in the good old
Combines.
days. Let me ask you a question.
Yeah.
When you look at this, so today we had a practice this morning, right? It's in the books?
In the books. It is.
All right.
It has happened.
So I'm looking at this not practice report, and I see Ward, Delpit, Schwartz, Greedy, Redwine. The first 4 are the ones that jump out most, and then of course Taki and Fields and some others down there. MJ Stewart, Porter Gustin, who coach addressed in his presser in terms of his availability. But Ward, Delpit, Schwartz, Greedy. No concern. Standard. At some point we got to practice a little bit, right? Especially with Grant. Like we love him, but you can't help it. I'm sure it's killing him. But at some point, you got to be on the field a little bit. We're still 3 weeks out, still a long ways, but it's got to be getting close.
We need it back, and we need to see them be able to come back and stay back. And so here's my concern level in terms of ability to make early season impact, let's call it.
Okay.
Denzel, 0 concern. Grant Delpit, concern. Yeah. Anthony Schwartz, significant concern. Greedy, not concerned. This is the first day that Greedy's missed all camp.
Yeah.
So I feel good about him. J.C. Tretter's fine. Taki's fine. No issues there. Michael Dunn, I think, is fine also. So I don't think there's an issue there. Good news is that Nick Harris was back at practice, which we alluded to yesterday on the show. But look, for Grant, he needs these reps, and I know he's getting all the mental, and I know he's getting, all the extra walkthrough and all that they're doing to try to prepare him, but there's nothing like reps, and you got to get some reps before you even think about being able to go down and deal with the Kansas City Chiefs. So for Grant, I think that there is, at this point, there's got to be a little bit of a concern. Now, the good news is that, if you say we don't need to go dime in that game, or if we do go dime in that game, we can go dime with 4 corners and 2 safeties.
Yeah.
Because I think we'll have our top 4 corners. I want to see MJ Stewart get back out there because he was having a very nice camp. Sheldrick we haven't seen in a while. I don't know if Rich Lecount is ready for the Chiefs, even though he has had a tremendous preseason.
Well, no, but from a collegiate standpoint, he did about as close as you can come to playing in the NFL.
Yep.
So, it's as close as you can come to feeling the live bullets of an NFL game. So, no moment at this point in his preseason has been too big for him. He's
Right.
been everywhere. And he's and probably better, against Jacksonville than even last week. But no, I think there is good confidence in him. And I just think your heart breaks for Grant because you think about the devastation of that injury, the fight to get back from it, feeling like you're okay, but then just can't get okay and sustain okay. And that's hard. That's mentally draining is what that is. And it's tough. And I just feel for him because when he's out there, he's different.
Yeah.
He's got the same twitch and feel and the way that he goes about his business. It's elite. It separates even amongst elite athletes. But you just at some point, you got to get to the point where we're on the field. And I do wonder about Schwartz as well, Z, from the standpoint of how do you factor that into cutdown day and the numbers in that room in terms of can you contribute?
Look, the Browns have 2 options, right? You have the options if you place somebody on. These are the only tools at their disposal. I've heard people talk about, we'll pup this guy, pup that. That only counts for a guy who came into training camp on the physically unable to perform list and then didn't participate at all in training camp. You can open them on the season there. They'd be out 6 weeks. The Browns have nobody who fall into that category. Nobody falls into that category on this roster.
Yeah.
So you have with a guy like, we'll take Schwartz, for example. If they IR him now, he cannot play this year. So he's got to be on your 53, even if you ultimately want to free that spot up early in the season. He has got to make your 53, be on the roster for a full day until 4 o'clock the following day after the first 53 cut is announced. And at that point, he can be placed onto injured reserve. That's the same with Tony Fields.
Right.
And Tony Fields, given what we've got in the linebacker room, feels to me like he ultimately could be a candidate for IR.
Mm-hmm.
Before the 53 cut down. So we'll see. They are holding, so far no transaction has been made on Jacob Phillips, which leads me to believe that he will be on the initial 53 so he can then be IR'd.
Yeah, that's pretty
spot,
noteworthy.
Which is a spot.
Right.
And, when you're thinking
about... So now you're talking about 7 in the linebacker room.
Possibly, or, now you get into the special teams guys. And I still believe D'Ernest is in great shape in that running back room, but, you never know. Kaderil Hodge in the wide receiver room. The guy was our opening day starter last year as the third receiver, and he's a core special teams guy. You've got to still find the balance of those special teams guys, and I think that's where this gets really, really challenging. And we don't know if, for example, Demetric Felton, who it feels like looked a little more comfortable at receiver so far, and that's probably because he has been doing it here much more than he's been playing running back. Where does he I think he's going to be on this roster, obviously. So where does he fit in necessarily in that hierarchy, in that pecking order? There aren't many decisions to be made, but the decisions that are to be made are kind of difficult.
They're complicated, too.
Yes.
Because you're weighing you're weighing injury,
right.
and so you say to yourself, as you alluded, that pup list information is something that it's confusing, and if you don't have a handle on it, you can think that it's something that it's not. And the fact that we don't have anybody who's a candidate for that tells you all you need to know.
Right.
So the tricky thing is going to be if you keep one of these guys on the initial 53, and they can get through. Who are you exposing? at that point and for pickup, and then how quickly can they get back and get to full speed? So that's the thing that's really tricky here, and it's unfortunately for us, it's the positions that were already highly competitive and where there were some questions. The bottom of the receiver room, the linebacker room, certainly now at safety with Lecount. I mean, we would have. All of these things are tricky, and while there aren't that many decisions, they are complicated ones. And I think you did a good job of laying that out, because it's going to be a lot over the course of the next week or so to get to a point where you say, all right, this is the 2021 Cleveland Browns, because there's so many questions on the bottom of this roster, and not to suggest that these players are. Grant Delpit's not a bottom of the roster guy. It's certainly not, and Schwartz is not a bottom of the roster guy. But these are guys who. Are they ready to go? Can they contribute?
They'll probably. I mean, Schwartz at this point is getting hard to see, an early season role for him. But then again, it was never supposed to be a major role. It was supposed to be get out here 10 plays and run verticals and run jet sweeps.
Yeah.
He could still probably do that, provided that he's healthy,
sure.
Right? So that one's interesting. And, as we said, there aren't a whole lot of decisions. Is there a fifth defensive tackle? Do you need to keep a fifth safety, given where Grant currently is? Do you want to keep a fifth safety because they're pretty good? Maybe you do, right?
Yeah.
At this point, I think if Richard Lecount is somebody you want to be a part of your organization, he's got to be on your 53.
Right. He won't. I don't think he'll get through.
No. So there are some very, very difficult decisions that are going to have to be made here at the bottom. We told you it's not a lot of spots. We went through it yesterday, and one move here, one move there are going to impact things, and even the Phillips portion of it potentially could impact something, because that's going to be a spot that is not going to be used initially, that you're going to have to expose somebody that otherwise would have been on your team, that you're hoping to be able to get through and get right back.
Yeah, going to be fascinating. Going to be fascinating times as this roster starts to come together. Coming up next, we will go around the league, including a very interesting game on Monday Night Football. Both sides involved in that. We'll take you around the league coming up next as well. You listen to Cleveland Browns Daily on 850 ESPN Cleveland.
ESPN Cleveland.
And Beau Bishop here for Raisin Canes. School's in session. Raisin Canes ready to teach your taste buds a lesson. It's time to feed your brain with hand-battered, cooked-to-order chicken fingers, crispy, crinkle-cut fries, buttery Texas toast, and mouth-watering cane sauce from Raisin Canes. Raisin Canes is here to help all school year long. Visit canescommunity.com to learn more about how Canes can support your school with fundraisers, sponsorships, and more. Raisin Canes, one love. All right, I know you aren't hard of watching. I know that you watched last night with the kid in number 2 for New Orleans.
Oh, our boy,
our nephew,
Jameis, slinging it around, 9 of 10, 2 touchdowns. He threw a ball 53 yards in the air, which, did you know, is the longest air yardage throw made by a Saints quarterback in 5 years.
Wow. I did not know that. I did not know that. I remember talking to, probably a week or so ago, I was talking to Mike Renner of PFF. We've had him on the show before. Good dude.
Great.
And we were talking about the Saints quarterback competition. He goes, I don't get it. Either you want a guy who can throw or you want a guy who can't. So, like,
I don't get it either.
It's not that difficult, right? Like, either you want a guy who can throw or you want a guy that can't. And Winston can throw. He looked great. I would think that would be the end of it, that you'd shut it down. It was universally, you looked at it. I remember us looking at it at the time. We didn't want him to go to Pittsburgh. That was our fear. Like keep him out of there.
Yes.
Because the potential was always there. But it was such a no-risk, potentially high ceiling acquisition for Sean Payton and Mickey Loomis and the Saints. They got him for nothing. And Jameis was smart enough to take the nothing and view it as a potentially long-term savior of his career. To go to, quote, quarterback finishing school.
I believe we had this, right? He got to go to the Bill Callahan fantasy camp for quarterback with Drew Brees and Sean Payton and just learn, no pressure.
Just soak it up. Yeah. So he did that.
Yeah.
And then had the humility to do that as a former number 1 overall pick to go in the division as a backup. He did it, and it is paying off. And for Sean Payton, he now has a toy with, as you know, no air throw more than that in 5 years. They now open a lot of things up. Like if you're Michael Thomas, you go, oh, maybe I ought to hustle back from this thing quick as I can and get me in this offense, because there's going to be another level to this that they haven't had in a while.
Yeah, you're going to get the ball down the field vertically, and I'll tell you what, that Marquez Callaway looks pretty darn good. He's made a lot of plays. That one-handed catch, I mean, that was a beautiful throw by Jameis, but a one-handed catch right down there at the end zone. Yeah, I was interested in this game, obviously, for our guy Jameis. There's also the other factor, which is, things don't look that great in Jacksonville, and it becomes more apparent by the day that he had no idea, he being Urban Meyer, what he was getting into and how to do this. And you said it early, his staff was going to be so important.
Critical.
And look, it's preseason. There's no reason for them to be showing anything, but you'd like to get at least into some kind of a rhythm for your young quarterback, and he very much looks like a rookie. Very much looks like a rookie. Holding the ball, not seeing it. You worry that he's going to get shell-shocked. They haven't had their O-line there yet. It's just not a pretty scene.
Let's just go through a couple of things here. And there's an interest here, obviously, because Urban won a national championship at Ohio State. He's an Ohioan, and he did a great job at Ohio State. I believe we had this. I believe we talked about this and addressed it specifically, the issues. That the most important thing for him, you knew this was the job he would take. Why? Because the guy he spent the most time with the last couple of years when he was in L.A. doing television stuff was Jimmy Johnson. And this most similarly mirrors what Jimmy Johnson inherited when Jimmy Johnson took the job with the Cowboys. 1-15, number 1 overall pick, franchise quarterback, a lot of cap space, some exciting young players. Michael Irvin was already on the roster at that time in Dallas. The difference is Jimmy Johnson was the general manager of the Dallas Cowboys, and he was equipped to be the general manager of the Dallas Cowboys because he just got out of college football and because the NFL at that time was mostly a family business. There weren't analytic teams poring over data. There weren't scouting staffs that were in the tens of hundreds spread all over the country looking at rosters. Jimmy Johnson had an inherent advantage in that he had scouted and played against most of the best players in college football, and if you look at his drafts, it mirrors that.
Yep.
That was not the case now. Everybody's smarter.
Yep.
Everybody's smarter now in this league than they were in 1988-89 when Jimmy Johnson took that job with Dallas. So right away, it's a much more difficult job. Now, it's easy because you get to pick Trevor Lawrence, and everybody would have picked Trevor Lawrence number 1 in this year's draft, and rightfully so. He's that type of prospect. But that's where it starts to get tricky. And that's really where the similarities end, because the most critical thing that Urban had to do is hire coordinators. He needed to hire coordinators. He needed to hire somebody defensively who was brilliant, and he needed to hire somebody offensively that fit his vision. My guess is that what he did instead was hire, and I think that's clear by the hires, is he hired NFL veteran assistants. And what Brian Schottenheimer is doing offensively for them, frankly, lacks imagination in every way. It is putting Trevor Lawrence. You just look at the position that Justin Fields is put in by Matt Nagy. Just the rollout, throwback
Sure.
right stuff that he's doing, the easy read stuff, the stuff we did for Baker early on. There's none of that for Trevor Lawrence.
No.
None of it. Nothing. There's nothing easy. They're asking him to play essentially West Coast offense. It's a plodding offense. Urban wants to play fast. Well, that's not what Brian Schottenheimer wants to do.
No.
Not what he wants to do. Not what Darrell Bevel wants to do. So they don't fit his ethos. Now, you compound that by the notion that this man, and I believe this, has probably watched 0 preseason NFL games in his life, since he was in college probably, and has no idea, just probably getting used to it. There was a line, did you guys read the Football Morning in America for Peter King, the Jaguars center, what he did with Urban after? So Urban had that presser last week, for the folks who didn't read this. Urban had that presser last week. He said, we got to coach with a little more tempo offensively. I want more tempo. I want to go.
Yeah.
The center for the Jaguars put his arm around him, slapped him on the back, and said, hey, coach, don't worry about it. It's just preseason. You do that at Ohio State, gone. Gone. Can't have it. Can't have it. And now he's having to deal with it. And his body language is just brutal because he's not used to incompetence.
If you're going to be a culture setter, you can't have that body language.
Can't have it. I couldn't believe he got, no, you can't have that body language for your culture center. You can't have a guy saying that to you and then having it get out if you're trying to be a culture setter. What the center said can't be said. It can't be made public.
It can't be made public. It shows a couple things, though, that are red flags to me. Is that center's, I think, actually speaking the truth. Like, this is preseason.
Sure.
This doesn't matter in the grand
Correct.
scheme of things. The fact
You never hear
that,
JC say that.
but the fact that it looks as bad as it does, when clearly Urban's mentality is that this does matter a great deal, is even scarier to me. Because
The fact
he
that
wants
somebody
it
would
to
say
look
that
good.
on the record, the fact that somebody would tell that story on the record to Peter King tells you that's an enormous red flag.
Yeah.
Because even if you thought it, if you bought into the culture, you wouldn't say it.
We've heard all along, anybody you talk to, the players know right away if a guy's got it. And there could be a feeling in that locker room right now that he doesn't get this game. This game being, of course, the pro game and what you can do. And I think, I'll go back to it. I think this has something to do with it. When you are now, when's the last time that Urban Meyer coached a team that wasn't amongst the 5 most talented in all of college football?
First year at Florida.
Okay. So we're going back, though, right?
Way, way back. Way, way back. Obviously at Utah and at Bowling
Sure.
Green. But he could always fix the deficiency himself by his force of nature. He could go fix it. Can't do that here.
Well, because a lot of that could be not only his culture,
Recruited.
not only his leadership. He was definitely, at the time, an offensive innovator. But by recruiting. You can't do that in the NFL. You can't just stack the deck. And when you have, I think, coached a team with a stacked deck for so long, some of the in-game finery probably goes out the window because it doesn't matter.
His entire program at Ohio State was set up 4 to 6, A to B, compete. Everything, it was confrontational competition. That's how he set it up. And not just players, but assistant coaches. It's the only way he knows how.
Yep.
They would do best against best all the time. Because you can. You heard Nick Saban this week on his press conference at Alabama. Someone was asking about a 5-star tight end, why he's not playing, why he's in the doghouse. He goes, look, he always says, this ain't a democracy.
Yeah.
I decide. The NFL's a little more closer to a democracy. It's a little closer.
Yeah.
It's not the NBA, but it's a little closer. And he talked about this, and I think it's coming. He's been good at everything he's done, TV, coaching, everything. So I still have faith in eventually he'll get it right. But the losing, he can't hide how much it bugs him.
And he's going to lose more this season than he had probably lost in his 10 previous coaching seasons combined.
He lost 7 conference games at Ohio State.
7.
7. Yeah. 7 games. Okay. So, yeah. No, he's not. And he's the biggest red flag, I think, is what they're doing offensively, because all that matters is that Trevor Lawrence is better at the end of the season than he is at the beginning, that he's protected, that he gets better. The record's irrelevant. That doesn't matter down there. It's Peyton Manning went 3-13 year one. Led the NFL in interceptions. Doesn't matter. By the end of the year, you knew you had a guy. And that, when I look at what they're doing offensively, I think, boy, they're making it a lot harder on that kid than they need to. Totally
agree. Here's a question that, we're getting very into. My family's getting into these Marvel what ifs, which are great. So it's where they kind of change one thing, and it's an animation. They're fantastic. I can't wait for the next one to come out. But
okay,
Peyton Manning's rookie year, which we talk about a lot, you hear talked about a lot, happened a really long time ago. If Peyton Manning had that same rookie year in the year 2021 with social media, with the constant coverage of the National Football League that has exploded even since he was in the league, is he able to shrug that off? Is he able to finish that season? What does that factor have to do with? Think of the scrutiny these rookies are under now.
Oh, boy.
Like, does that change the trajectory of his career? I don't think so, because he's that good, but there would have been a lot of things in his head that were definitely smoothed under the radar, because back then he's playing in Indianapolis.
Right.
That doesn't exist anymore. You would be talked about every day. NFL
there wasn't
Network,
Good Morning Football,
everywhere.
Yeah. It's a fantastic point that it was much easier to hide deficiency then. That there was far less scrutiny then. The only scrutiny you got then was in the newspaper or in the local television. That's it. I mean, there weren't debate shows on ESPN in 1998. There weren't debate shows. So there was nobody saying he stinks, he's better. There was none of that. I mean, it was just in the infancy of that. The only pushback I would have is it's easier now, I believe, to come in right away and play quarterback in the league than it's ever been.
Agreed.
Because so much of the college concepts are in the pro game now, and because it's easier to play offensive football than it's ever been. You're protected.
The rules are all in their favor. Yes, no question.
You can't get hit low. You can't get hit high. You can't do these things.
They can't grab your receivers. I mean, they changed that during Peyton's career because of the way New England would bug Harrison and Wayne.
Yes. So that would be my only pushback, that it's easier now than ever to play the position. So his rookie year wouldn't probably have been that rough, because he was as prepared as anybody's been to play quarterback in the league. And even he had an adjustment. I mean, think about, we made Michael Vick play West Coast offense.
Which is
just
absurd.
Ridiculous.
But even
today, that's what we asked him to do.
Even today, you already heard, is Lawrence, was he not as ready as we thought? He's not looking good. Are they going to get this right? 2 preseason games here.
No. He's not being put in the best position to succeed. He doesn't have a whole lot of easy throws.
No. And they are without DJ Chark, who is, obviously important to what they do. But,
what did you think when he took off running?
Get down?
And he got hit low?
Yeah.
He got hit at the knee on turf. And I thought, oh, my God, get up, kid, get up.
It just doesn't look the way that I thought that would look.
No.
And it makes me wonder, too. I was reading some good NFL pundits on Twitter who have started talking about, maybe Clemson's offense was a lot better than we give it credit for. That he obviously was very, very good coming out of college, Trevor Lawrence, but that maybe he wasn't the Andrew Luck that it was made out that he was, which I think is premature, but nonetheless.
Well, what I would say to that is it's very similar. His circumstances at Clemson would have been very similar to the circumstances, for example, Dwayne Haskins had at Ohio State, in that his team was significantly better than every team he played.
Yep.
Now, all of these experts can't be wrong in terms of who he is, and he was great on the big stage. As a freshman, he shredded Alabama.
Yep.
So he's a dude. Like, I don't think there's any
doubt.
doubt that he's a dude.
No doubt.
And he's got toughness. He has all of that. You saw him firsthand. He's special. But just from the standpoint of this is the most important thing can be is where you're drafted, and are you nurtured, and are you put in a position to succeed? And I look at what they're doing offensively, and I don't see it. I don't. I think it's going the other way, and I think it's going to drive a lot of people nuts. One other quick note on rookie quarterbacks. Justin Fields will, by the way, apparently listening to the show, Matt Nagy is, because we talked about this a little bit yesterday. Why wouldn't you just play Justin Fields in the preseason and say Andy Dalton's our week 1 starter and avoid all of this? Well, now that's what they're going to do.
Now they're doing it.
Third preseason game, Fields is going to start. He's going to play 2 quarters, but Dalton's the starter. This is what they should have done from the beginning. There was no reason to play Andy Dalton in the preseason.
Agreed. None.
It's not hard.
No, not hard at all. And maybe he wanted the reps, but it just made it a more difficult situation. Now they've said it. Andy Dalton is the week 1 starter. It does feel like in San Francisco, Kyle's being a little more coy about it. And
that's interesting. What do you make of that, knowing him as well as you do? You guys go on family vacations and such.
I think that he knows that there is a section of his playbook that he has not been able to tap into, and that this kid has been impressive early, and that it allows him to do things that he hasn't been able to do probably since RG3, in addition to all the other stuff he does very well. And I think he's excited by that. I mean, you heard the story that he was coming back from the Fields Pro Day. He's on the plane drawing up plays for Trey Lance. I mean, that's how much he liked Trey Lance. That was always who they wanted. So maybe he's feeling like he's ready to roll, and we can do some things, with him that we couldn't do with Jimmy. Now, again, Jimmy's 20-6 as a starter for the 49ers? I mean,
right.
You don't thumb your nose
a team
at
that's
that.
fully formed. You have to be careful with that. So and the other thing you have to do is you can't lie to the room. And if the people on that team, the veterans on that team, are going, look, man, we got to the Super Bowl with Jimmy. I mean, that Lance has to really prove it, and that might be where they're at.
Yeah, and you never know. The guys in the room might be blown away. Sometimes the players get blown away. They're like, wait a second, this guy is.
Yeah.
Look what this guy's doing to us.
No, absolutely. Absolutely so. The Browns High School Football Game of the Week is back, presented by Ohio Cat in association with MedLiminal. Fans can vote now to determine this week's game on clevelandbrowns.com and @Browns on Twitter. Polls close Thursday at noon. This week's candidates are Cleveland Heights versus Garfield Heights, St. Ignatius versus Menor, Berea Mid-Park versus Nardonia. The winning team from the selected game of the week receives $2,500 program. Go and vote now. Coming up at the top of the hour, a visit with our defensive back coach, Brandon Lynch. You're listening to Cleveland Browns Daily on 850 ESPN Cleveland.
Daily. The ESPN Cleveland.
Beau Bishop here, and if you're sick and tired of your outdated kitchen, it's the perfect time to upgrade to a new modern design. At Northeast Factory Rent, cabinets include all of the upgrades: solid wood, full extension drawer glides, cushion closed drawers, and doors. Right now, stop in and take your photo with Flat Alex for a chance to win a $500 gift card that you could put towards that new kitchen. Just take Northeast Factory Direct on Facebook or Instagram to be entered into the drawing to win. So if you're thinking about remodeling your kitchen, go check them out. Go to northeastfactorydirect.com and schedule your appointment today. Certainly one of the interesting conversations among this team will be at the defensive back position. Brandon Lynch oversees that. Here's Z one-on-one with Coach Lynch.
Brandon, you work with these corners,
You're down.
and I know you love it because every time I see you got a smile on.
This is just under 10 minutes.
So let's just start with this. How are you doing, man? How's this preseason gone for you so far?
Man, you know what? God is good. You know, I know Coach Stefanski puts the focus on the work, but when you're able to go out with a smart, tough, accountable group, you know, it really makes it worthwhile coming to practice.
And you have a great group in your room, and that's something that clearly was a priority this offseason to address the cornerback room. You do it in the draft with Greg Newsome. You bring in Troy Hill. You get Greedy back. So let's just kind of go through the room a little bit. And the guy I want to talk about first is Denzel Ward, because guy's a Pro Bowler, and yet every time I'm out here watching special teams practices, when he was, not missed out with the soreness, when he was working, he's off to the side with you, and you guys are doing technique work, it looks like. That's got to be a pretty powerful message to the young guys when the top dog in the room is getting all the extra work he can with you.
Absolutely. And it goes back to the word that you said, work, and really working at just our alignment, our technique, and our overall execution. So like you said, when Denzel is off to the side and he's working on his technique and fundamentals, it really does help the young guys like a Greg Newsome or some of the other younger corners that we have on the team to really work to get better.
What are you working on with him? What is the technique, and how different is it from team to team, and certainly from college to the pros?
Sure. You know what? It's going to go down with our stance first. So our stance, our alignments, where our eyes are pre and post snap, and what our first step is. And then we like to talk a lot about what the phases are. So phase 1 being line of scrimmage through 5 yards, segment to phase 2, which is 5 yards through 12 yards of the movement area. And then we'll go ahead and finish with our execution in phase 3, which is 12 plus yards down the field.
I like that. And in the first 5 yards is, that's the only place that they can get their hands on those receivers, which Greg said was a big change from the college game for him there. But how important are those first 5 yards to setting up everything?
You know what? It's everything. It really sets up our alignment, allows us to utilize our technique, and it starts the first step in our execution.
All right, so Greg comes in, drafted in the first round, outside corner, inside corner, played some nickel in this last preseason game. I know how much you guys like him. What is it that makes him so unique and special?
Absolutely. He's a smart, tough player. We talk a lot in our room, Coach Howard, about being a fierce competitor. So when you talk about like a young man that's accountable, somebody that's going to put the team first, he really exemplifies it in his reps.
And when you got to see him inside, what did you take away from his performance inside in this past preseason game?
Twitch, and quickness. He has a very fast processor, and he's able to apply details.
Is that an adjustment? Because inside, sometimes it's harder to get your hand on the receiver, right? That's why they keep him there when they bring these quick guys into the slot. Was that an adjustment for him, something that he kind of talked about afterwards?
You know what, he did, but he's a very smart player, so him being able to apply the information rapidly, he's able to do it.
All right, let's talk about Troy Hill, who comes in and tenacity, grit. That's what Coach Howard kind of said. You can see it out here in good and bad ways, I guess, sometimes, a little bit there, but got to see him in his first preseason action. What's he kind of brought to this room?
You know what, toughness and resilience. He's another smart player that is able to play through football one-on-ones, but when you look at his twitch and his overall execution, it's really going to help us on the back end.
Yeah, he had one of the plays in the game against the Giants where he flipped his hips and just mirrored the guy going out, where I was like, whoa, because it looked like he might have gotten a little crossed up, and then when you can correct mistakes like that on the fly, I'm sure that's quite useful.
Absolutely. And, we talk a lot about Russian coverage and how important that relationship is. So when you have guys that can eliminate errors by their play, that helps our team both on offense, defense, and special teams.
All right, let's talk about Greedy. And what a story it is battling his way back. I realize he suffered the groin day to day, but then again, aren't we all, as Coach would say? He just seems to be in such a good place, and you see him working on his technique out there quite a bit as well.
Sure. Resilience, when I think of Greedy, when you look at the way that he was able to battle back as well as still stay in tune with our segment last year, I think is really helping him this year. So as we're tightening down screws, as we like to say, on our technique and fundamentals, he's definitely dialed in to applying them.
You guys have done a lot of man, at least in training camp, and I know that's going to be a mix of man and zone, obviously, in the season. And why did you guys kind of like to focus on that man? Is it just to see who can cover, right? That's the number one thing of being a corner.
Sure. You know what? Rush and coverage work together.
Yeah.
So if we can be tighter, we buy our defensive line and our second-level players at linebacker one more half a second to get to the quarterback and get the ball back for our offense.
What's the biggest change with some of these guys, like Greedy, for example, played basically exclusively man-to-man at LSU, coming to the pro game and learning some of the nuances of the different zone coverages?
Sure. He's a very smart player, very capable player in the movement area, and has really good ball skills. So, within our scheme, they really emphasize what his natural talents are.
Which you like to have that. You like to have that synergy, as it were. Let's talk about A.J. Green. This is a guy, I remember, we picked him up as the undrafted free agent last year. He didn't have a chip on his shoulder. He had a boulder on his shoulder. Felt he should have been drafted, but he's happy to be here. And he's a guy, every time you put it on, you see the tape is good. Baker actually told me he's one of the DBs that's really stood out to him in this camp. So where has that progress come? What have you seen from AJ?
You know what? Team first guy. And when I say team first guy, he's a guy that excels on special teams. He's a guy that has really bought into attacking the ball to get it back for our offense. And when you look at how he is in the classroom, he's very smart. He exemplifies toughness. And when he gets on the field, he's an extremely accountable player.
That's the word that Coach Howard used about him, accountable. He will do the job, and we can rely on that. When you trust a guy, I imagine it gives you an opportunity to say, yeah, go ahead and just get right in that game for me.
Absolutely. Do your job. It's something that we really put an emphasis on, doing our job and trusting the process.
Coach also told me you never have to tell him to go in the game. He will be on the field before you even turn around. He's like, oh, I get to go in now. Here I go.
Absolutely. And that goes with, what type of ability. The best ability is dependability and availability, and he's been both of them.
Is he somebody in your mind that really has taken a big leap, though, from year one to year two?
Absolutely. And with him being able to really just buy into what our team culture is, we talk about playing fast, playing physical, playing together. Each day that he comes out, he tries to put that on tape.
Brian Allen's a guy who's been in the league for a while, and you can see his size. That's the first thing I think that jumps out. What has he shown you so far this year?
Natural traits that can utilize, that we can help on special teams. He can help us defensively with his speed and his length. And obviously, anytime that you have corners that can play press man, that's a plus.
So listen, and he started his college career as a receiver, so you better have good ball skills, right?
Absolutely.
You guys have had a lot of bone collectors in your room so far, which I'm sure you are very happy about, and it really kind of runs the gamut of that room. How much does that mean to you guys?
You know what? Everything. And when I say everything, knowing that rush and coverage work together, it's really one of those serve first type things. So if we're a bone collector, we realize in our room that it's in part of us playing fast, playing physical, but most importantly, us playing together.
What do you love about coaching? Because every time I see you, you look like you're having the best time.
Really the part of serving and developing. I love to see other individuals, go out, have a goal, be process oriented, and really develop a plan for them to reach it.
And I think that's part of the exciting, seeing that development before your eyes, and taking a guy, for example, like A.J. Green and saying, okay, you came in here, you had this boulder on your shoulder, we've worked, you've worked, and now you're a guy that if we need you, we know you can go out there and play at a high level. It's got to be gratifying on some level.
Absolutely it is, and obviously having that team first mentality, when you have guys that can really be a great part of what our culture is, that really gives us the thought that they're going to be successful in the room, on the field, and most importantly when they leave off.
How's Emmanuel Rugamba doing? He's a guy who's come in here, undrafted free agent. I know he's been
A little under 2 minutes left, guys.
out trying to study and learn everything. He got to play a lot against the Giants. What did you see from him in that opportunity when unfortunately we lost Keandre Thomas, who played so well in that first game? Emmanuel got a lot of opportunities this week.
He did. Very smart player. He's a guy that is able to translate things from the classroom to the field and really apply them at a fast level.
What do you love about defensive back play?
Getting the ball back for the offense. We talk a lot about attacking the ball, so having guys that, really can strike from the second level, guys that can attack and attract the ball to get it back for the offense, I think is extremely important.
And you guys, look, we got a couple picks already, a couple games into the preseason, and of the safety room, of course, Mr. Lecount, who is, it seems to be a favorite amongst your room and the DBs there. You love that when you guys can take the ball away. That's something that this Browns defense did very well last year as well.
Absolutely. Attack the ball. And, that's something that we put a premium on, attacking the ball and most importantly, being a great team player so we can get it back for our offensive special teams.
All right, so what's the secret to your happiness?
40 seconds.
Could all be more like you, we would all be in a much happier place. Always positive, always happy, and then also so chill. You're just like, and match kind of head coach Kevin Stefanski and AB and Depot, you kind of fit that same mold. And I know you had experiences with Tony Dungy in Indianapolis that you told me kind of helped shape you, but what's the secret, man? I want to be smiling all the time too. I'm a pretty positive person, but you give me definitely a run for my money.
I tell you what, he whose mind stays on thee, I keep thee in perfect peace. So my relationship with our Father is something that I hold very close to my heart, and I'm
15 seconds.
in my expressions.
It most certainly does. It is always a pleasure talking to you, and so thankful that you are on this staff and we get a chance to watch you work with these young.
5 seconds. You're both hot.
Help them become not only better players but better men.
Amen.
Go.
Gosh, every time we hear from one of those guys that either we haven't heard from a while or don't hear from very often, you come away going, man, Stefanski crushed this coaching staff.
Yeah.
Crushed it. I mean, it's just impressive dude after impressive dude in there.
Yeah, Coach Lynch is and just a special human,
Yeah.
He told me a story when he was a young DB with the Indianapolis Colts. He thought, he's like, look, I wasn't a guy that was, a lock to be in the league for very, very long. And he was with the Colts on the practice squad and kind of in the off seasons in 2005. And he said, one time they told me to wait for Coach. And I was like, this is it, right? This is the end of my rope here. And Coach was going to come in and talk to me. And instead he said, Tony Dungy came in and sat with him. He goes, I knew he knew who I was, but didn't really, I wasn't a starter or anything like that. And Dungy came in because he found out that Coach Lynch was going to be having his daughter be born shortly, to sit down with him and tell him how important that father-daughter relationship was and how he needed to be a role model for her because that's going to shape her life and how she views, men and the treatment of men and women and all that. You need to just got this like deep level with them. And he said that's what made Coach Dungy, so special. And he kind of has taken some of that, not just the football mentorship that he gives these guys, but also real mentorship as well. He's a special human. When you see him here, always smiling, always happy, and always working. And he and Jeff Howard, you think about the energy that those two bring to the room. They're both very cool customers. That's kind of what you want in that DB room. And I think that we're very lucky to have him. And clearly Denzel and Greedy and Greg, you see these guys working on the technique with him off the side. They have full trust in his ability to make them better.
I think the other thing from a personality standpoint, it's a really good fit for that position.
Yes.
Because you got to be a different dude to play corner, to play safety. You have to have a short memory. You got to feel 10 feet tall and bulletproof all the time. It's an incredibly emotional position to play because the plays that you don't see the ball often, but when you see it, a lot is on the line. A lot is on the line when the ball comes your way. And so you have to always be razor sharp, but you also have to have a short memory. And so it's kind of a weird thing that you have to be because it's a lot. Heck, you can run around a whole game and you might only see 4 or 5 balls come your way.
Yeah.
If you're Denzel, that might be all you get. But when it's there, you got to make sure that you're on it. And I think his calming nature would do nothing but help. Would do nothing but help that room.
Yeah, no fluster there. By the way, some news from Adam Schefter just coming down. Not great for the Jags. Test results today revealed that rookie Travis Etienne suffered a Liz Frank midfoot sprain that is now likely to end his season.
I mean, that was doomed, not to this end, but that was doomed from the beginning when right after the draft they said, well, the Giants got our guy, and it felt like they kind of forced Kadarius Toney, that they kind of forced Travis Etienne a little bit. I was wondering last night watching the game, what took him so long to get in there? You wonder if maybe this was something that was aggravated in the week and they for some reason felt like they wanted to see, because he wasn't the second running back in. It was Robinson, and then it was Hyde, and then it was him, and then it was a very little bit of him, and then he was done. I just wonder, did he aggravate it last night and make it worse?
I don't know.
We don't know.
You don't know. James Robinson. It was a dumb pick anyway. You got James
No,
Robinson.
of course.
Who was
No, they didn't need it.
darn good for you.
And also Travis Etienne, anyone who watched him play in college, he's not what Urban probably was hoping for. What he wanted was like a Percy Harvin type, similar to the stuff that he's had in college. But that's not who Travis Etienne's he's a tailback. That's what he is.
Yes.
So,
and I should say, it was a redundant pick when you were able to have a guy on an undrafted free agent contract who could obviously play. Because James Robinson, if he showed anything last year, he could play tailback.
Well,
and so you didn't necessarily need to use a first-round asset at that same position at this time.
Furthermore, I think it's fair to say was a panicked pick.
Right, because they wanted Kadarius had
guy
shared
they
that
wanted
with the world. That's the other thing. You talked about that one thing getting out in Football Morning in America. That commentary should never have been made.
No. That's certainly a tough break down in Jacksonville. We are certainly. I can't wait to see this guy play in the games that matter in the regular season. John Johnson, a Cleveland Brown, is a very, very good thing. You'll hear from his meeting with the media from earlier today from the podium. That's coming up next. You listen to Cleveland Browns Daily on 850 ESPN Cleveland. Beau Bishop here for my friends at EOX Vantage. And EOX Vantage connects core systems that don't talk. From reporting and analytics to insight decision making, you can gain a complete real-time picture of your business. You can eliminate Excel nightmares from business processes, visualize all of your important data in one place. You can gain real-time insight to make data-driven decisions on performance through roles-based visualization dashboards. With EOX Vantage, you can benefit from lower overall costs, better alignment between technology and business needs, scalability, ease of deployment, and management. EOX Vantage makes your data work smarter. It's really that simple. It will move your business forward. You're all about growth, and your software should be too. With With EOX Vantage, your company's going to scale effortlessly. There's a local presence with EOX Vantage, but a global footprint that's trusted by some of the world's biggest brands and the 2021 Cleveland Plain Dealer Top Workplace winner. Check them out, www.eoxvantage.com for more. One of certainly the crown jewel of our offseason from a free agency standpoint was John Johnson, and he will deliver on that promises. You just know it, not just from watching him play, but from hearing him speak. Here he was with the media from earlier today.
John, we saw that Tack was back. How good is it to have him?
You guys are both down.
Oh, it's awesome. He came in, with me in this whole free agency class, so it's good to have our team back strong, and hopefully, whatever he's dealing with is done, can get to work, but it's good to have him out here.
Had a chance to talk to him?
Not yet.
Okay. Plan to?
Yeah, of course.
Gotcha.
Does it kind of give the D any kind of lift seeing him come back, knowing you guys are kind of on him to play a big role?
Oh, absolutely. Not just, him. I think, just from a number standpoint, the rosters are getting cut. Guys are dropping, injuries come and go. So just having numbers and him, that spark, his game speaks for itself. He's a high motor guy, so it's definitely good to have him back out here with us.
John, Sean McVay wouldn't play regulars at all in the preseason. Did it turn out to be the right way to do it, do you think?
I think it's more than one way to skin a cat, but, that way it showed to work, just resting the starters. But I think you have to have like a level of preparation, and you got to trust that your guys are ready to play. You can't really simulate a game in any type of, even preseason, you can't really simulate it. But, I think it's more than one way to get ready for a season, but we'll see how it goes. Yeah.
So were his practices as hard as what you're getting here?
Yeah, pretty much. We made sure we got our work done, made sure we were at a level where we were ready to go on game day.
John, we talked a lot about all the new faces on defense, and obviously you're one of them. Has it been frustrating at all to not have the full unit for a lot of training camp, just with guys in and out with injuries?
Yeah, I mean, I wouldn't say frustrating, but, that's the name of the game in the league. Injuries are going to happen every year. Big name guys, special team guys, it happens. You just got to trust that the backups are ready to go and go out there and compete every day and push each other to be better than, whoever's out there on game day will be ready.
And with Grant specifically, do you feel him getting discouraged at all? Because obviously he missed last year and then has been in and out with that hamstring recently.
I don't think so. He's a strong guy. He's a strong-minded guy, and I personally feel bad for him. But he comes to work every day and works hard at what he does, whether it's rehab or whether it's on the field. So I don't think it's discouraging, but I would love to see him out there on the field. Absolutely.
So the whole defense is in front of you when you line up and out here at practice, and symbolically, what do you see out there that your defense needs to correct before Kansas City?
I just say discipline, just really locking in and doing your job each and every play. I think that's the hardest thing in the NFL. The margin for error is so small. So I don't think it's a skill thing. I don't think it's a talent thing. I don't think it's an effort thing. I think it's just locking in, being disciplined each and every play. It might just be a small read that you got to make 100% of the time to be successful. So once we get to that level of discipline, I think we'll be just fine.
You would think that would get easier repetition-wise, but
it actually gets harder.
This weather, I mean, is that interfering with discipline, just the monotony?
Exactly. Perfect word. I think it gets monotonous. You kind of go through the motions, and then boom, that play, it goes for 50 and it's a touchdown. So on defense, you can't really do that, especially in the secondary room.
John, we talk all the time about the defense gel, all the new faces, and time for the opener in Kansas City. With the injuries, I know you touched on it a minute ago, but is that realistic, or do you think it's more realistic that you guys are going to have to really gel in season, early season?
I think, we can do all that we can to be ready for week one, but I also do think, it constantly gets better as the season goes. You learn more about each other. You install new schemes depending on the week that you're playing. So I think getting to week one with whoever it may be out there, it'll be a challenge. But I think, being a professional, you got to be able to do that. But as the season goes on, we'll definitely be a lot. Week 15 will be completely different from week one.
John, you were obviously with a different team when the Browns played Kansas City last year, but have you looked at that tape of that playoff game? I
actually did. When I first signed and I got my iPad, that's the first thing that I looked at, that game, what went wrong. And it was a close game, so it's not like, we were far off. And there's just a few more things. Like I said, those discipline plays, they can really hurt you. So.
Was that the only time?
Yeah, pretty much. I've seen clips pop up here and there when we were going over like install and stuff, but I really watched that start to finish when I first got my iPad.
John, when we kind of see you guys out there on defense, it seems like you're talking the whole time, calling stuff out, kind of directing traffic. Have you always been like that? Did you need to learn to do that?
I think I've always been that way. And I think, at Boston College, I went in as a corner, and I felt the need to make calls and make sure the safety was aligned correctly. So then when I moved to safety, it was easy. So I think, I like talking out. I don't even wear a mouthpiece because I like talking so much. So I think it's just been that way for a long time.
Some guys struggle with that part of the game.
Mm-hmm.
What makes a great communicator on the field?
I think, just wanting to see everybody succeed. If I know a guy is misaligned and he might not do his job that play, I don't want to see him go down like that, and I don't want to see the team go down that way. So I just want to make sure everybody's comfortable, everybody's aligned in the right place, and have fun with it. I think me talking helps other guys talk. So I think, just going out there having fun with it has always been my thing.
Did you talk a lot when you were little, or is this just a sports thing?
Any home video, I'm grabbing the camera. I'm the center of attention, trying to be seen. So I think it's been long before football.
Hey, no disrespect to the NFC, but it feels like the AFC, the top of it is stacked. Do you see it that way?
I do. You got some big time contenders. Even just in this division alone. Then you look at Buffalo, you look at Kansas City. You never know who else in that division with Kansas City. Chargers can come alive. Denver can come alive. So I think it's like you said, it is pretty competitive, and it's a different game. I think.
I was going to ask you that. Is there a big difference between the two conferences?
I don't know about conferences, but definitely divisions.
Gotcha.
This division, big boy pads. I don't think I've seen a fullback in my life. So now, I think San Fran, they have one or two, but I'm not used to the tight ends. I'm not used to the fullbacks. It's all wide receivers passing. So it's a little different, but this is like real pro football.
So when you watched the Kansas City game and you were signed with the Browns, and Chad Henne
about 3 minutes left
down scramble, did you feel Cleveland fans were feeling?
Yeah, I did. That's it's a backbreaker. That's just a dagger. But hopefully we can fix those things and get it done.
John, you have a scouting report on Richard Lecount. Now you've been with him for a little bit.
Oh man, we live in the same building, so I'm kind of that's like my running mate. I've been trying to make sure he's doing the right thing. Being a pro. I know his college career was a little rocky. He had a little accident and stuff like that. So I just want to make sure he's on the right path. But he's done nothing but get better since he's been here, and I hope he continues to do that.
So we've seen him with a couple interceptions, obviously.
Right.
Is that just a natural instinct that he has for the game, or how do you kind of explain that hot start?
I think so. I think it's just natural. He's a guy that, he's going to do it 100% full speed. He may not be in the right place, but he's going to do it full speed. And when you do that, you're in the right place at the right time. And like you've seen, it was before the half and at the end of the game, tips and overthrows, opportunistic. So I think it is just really just instincts.
But do you think that nose for the ball is, not a whole lot of guys seem to have that. So does that part of his game seem a little unique, I guess?
I think so. Like, you can see it out here on the practice field. He makes plays that, a rookie probably, shouldn't make. So I think it is just him growing up playing football, loving the game, and just seeing stuff before it happens. So it's definitely a characteristic that you want at the safety position.
A couple more for John. Last question about the Kansas City game. Bear with me.
Gotcha.
After the scramble, then there's the fourth down conversion to Tyreek Hill.
Oh yeah, that's what I'm talking about, the back row.
Is that do you consider that unstoppable? Is there such a thing as unstoppable play?
No, that wasn't an unstoppable play. It was, what's the word? The odds were stacked against us, but it was kind of like a tough play to stop. But it's definitely stoppable, and I think that type of play you just got to see it coming. When Tyreek goes in motion and he's in a position where he can beat you to the flat, especially that down and distance, I think that's just something you got to alert the whole defense before it happens.
Which is what you would probably do back there.
Of course.
I got another rookie question for you. Greg Newsome, what stood out to you the most over these 2 games and 3 weeks of training camp?
I think, just competing at a high.
About 1 minute left here, guys.
That first preseason game against Jacksonville, he's lined up with Marvin Jones. He's no slouch in this league. He's been doing it for a long time, and he's competing with the guy. Limiting him to catch tackles and really just making plays on the ball. So I'm like, okay, he's going to go out there. He's feisty. He's going to compete. But I think just his technique is, you tell him to line up like this, step here, punch here. He's going to do exactly what you tell him to do every single time. So that's a real credit to a rookie coming in, for his first couple days in the league.
I got another Kansas City question.
Okay.
You obviously weren't here for that game, but
right.
Do you sense the excitement in here to play those guys again?
Oh, definitely. That's the last one from last year. It's gonna be the first one from this year. So it's definitely a little. It's a vindictive vibe. Definitely want to get back at those guys. But I always want to win the opener, regardless of who it is. So that's what we got to go out there and do.
Just to clarify.
10 seconds.
You meant Tyreek.
Yeah, I meant that play.
Henny.
Yeah, I was. I meant that fourth down play. Yep.
They were both
back.
They both hurt.
You're hot.
Folks, you're going to love him.
Oh, yeah.
You're gonna
Yeah.
love him. If you don't already, go buy your 43s. You're going to love him. I mean, he's on the field, off the field, just ultra impressive dude, and just awesome that he's part of this franchise for the next few years, to say the least. So this is going to be pure joy. It's a little bit of better or worse.
Which
been a
everybody
while.
knows is the parlance of our times. It's sweeping the nation. Gibbe was getting
really
hit
is.
all lefts and rights on Twitter about better or worse. It's great because it just makes more sense. It's a wonderful.
It makes more sense.
It just
So,
makes
yeah,
more
yeah.
sense. It's the sweet spot, really.
Better. It really is a sweet spot. It's that, too. We hit it coming up next. You're listening to Cleveland Browns Daily on 850 ESPN Cleveland.
850 ESPN Cleveland.
If you live and breathe football, you know sometimes keeping your priorities straight can be a challenge. Unfortunately, this game can be true when you gamble. If you find that gambling is affecting other parts of your life, get some help, get tips on responsible gambling at keepitfunohio.com. Time for, gosh, it's that time. This is just pure joy. It's pure joy. A little better or worse, higher or lower, as Gibbe erroneously calls it. Hello, Gibbe.
This is going to actually have to require a conversation because I believe we're getting sponsored on this segment.
Oh.
And by the way, just so you know, it was pitched as higher or lower.
Sad. Hate to see it.
Not sad. I can't wait till you're forced to call it that.
They're going to get 2 segments for the price of one because it's actually better or worse.
Right, that's true. What a
We'll
deal.
see.
What a deal. Hey, what about the scores? The scores? I mean, these are the pure joy segments. I mean, the scores is one that's...
They should be sponsored by, like, some financial
Yes.
partner because, frankly,
absolutely.
we turned a little bit of
Put
cheddar
kids through college.
into a whole lot of cheese for some folks who followed the scores.
Cow, I mean, how many of you want to put your kids through college? You should have been listening.
You really should have.
Yeah, we can't
We
do
crushed it.
We can't capitalize
It
on
can't
this.
continue.
As a member,
No, and it won't continue.
Gibbe
There's no
and
way we're going to... 4 years of this? Come on. This
I
will
don't
be
know.
our 4th year in the scores.
you never walk away from a heater.
The 4-year heater, Coach.
Why would it stop? Who would it? They said it couldn't have been a 3-year heater, and yet here we are.
Here we are, I guess.
And I can't even, Gibbe and I, as NFL employees, we can't benefit from the scores.
True.
We're not allowed.
Yeah.
Forbidden.
No dice.
I've gotten filthy rich doing it. Just filthy. Go ahead, kid.
This is higher or lower, gentlemen. And today, the power poll. Compliments of ESPN and their NFL Nation crew, their preseason rankings through 2 games and, of course, training camp, which has ended for most teams. They're now moving into the next phase of whatever this is. It's not training camp anymore. I don't know what they call this now, but it's still training camp to me. The fact that it's 90 degrees outside, it's still training camp.
I agree. If there's more than 70 people there, it's training camp.
Yeah.
Yep.
Yeah.
Same.
And it's the middle of the summer, and you're still playing preseason games.
Next Tuesday.
Still training camp.
I'm with you.
Next Tuesday, it's just practice.
Tuesday. Good job out of you.
Thank you.
All right. First and foremost, guys, the Browns come in at number 7 on this list. Thoughts? Higher, lower, or just right, Zegura?
I think we are better than number 7, but great. We got to go prove it. We haven't accomplished anything. As Depot said, our record is 0-0, just like everybody else's. I personally happen to like our team better than a couple of teams listed ahead of us. But I'll say better, but I'm fine with it. Put it on the bulletin board. They're not even saying we're the best team in our own division, which we haven't won the division title yet. Ever.
It's amazing.
So hopefully we will.
We're at a point. We're bulletin boarding that we're the 7th best team in the NFL. That's bulletin board material.
That's right.
Where we
Put
are.
it up.
Just dripping and winning. Look, I think it would be very fair and appropriate to have us 5. I think that's a very fair and appropriate spot. I think it makes sense. I mean, if you go to the top of this thing, Tampa Bay has to be number 1. They won it. They dominated the Chiefs. They got better. So they would have to be 1, and then I'm fine with Kansas City, Buffalo, and the Packers being ahead of us. But I would have us ahead of the Baltimore and the Rams.
All right, let's get things going. Next, Danny Cunningham.
Higher or lower?
Better or worse?
The Chiefs come in at number 1. Tampa Bay at number 2. Bishop, higher, lower, or are they just right?
No.
You just heard him, didn't you? Didn't you hear him just answer this already?
They have to be 1.
That's right.
They won the Super Bowl. They
Thank you.
brought everybody back. And this Joe Tryon guy that they drafted looks like a dude.
He does
and
look
he's
like a
only
dude.
going to help. So, no, they are 1. They are team. By the way, their division is trash.
Not great.
They are.
Although, come on.
No.
J-Mo? Come
I like
on.
it a lot, but it's amazing how Brady went to the NFC South, and now the NFC South resembles the AFC East almost.
Yes, it is interesting. Yeah, they're number
They
one
could
to
go
me.
15-2.
They are better. What I love about this is not only does it tell you their rankings, but then it gives you the person on the hot seat.
I was going there next.
Here's how great things are going in Tampa, that the guy on the hot seat is backup quarterback Ryan Griffin, who is not expected to play a snap in the season.
I didn't even know he was there. I thought Gabbert was the backup there that
Yes.
Brady befriended.
Griffin is the third best quarterback on the team.
Oh, that's
in
right. He's
terms
not even
of
the
rep
backup.
hierarchy.
Third. This is from our good friend Jenna Lane. Person on the hot seat, Ryan Griffin. She had to be laughing when she wrote this. The writing was already on the wall when the Bucs selected Kyle Trask in the second round of the 2021 NFL Draft, but Griffin had still maintained his spot as the third quarterback on the team in terms of rep hierarchy. However, Griffin threw 2 interceptions in the Bucs preseason opener against the Bengals. Others who have been in Bruce Arians' doghouse include running back Keyshawn Vaughn and wide receiver Tyler Johnson, but both have responded with strong performances since getting called out. So we're worried about if this guy's going to be the third string quarterback. That's the hot seat.
That's the biggest. That's the biggest question in Tampa Bay.
How good they are.
Must be nice. Congratulations on all your success.
That alone means they're number one on this list.
Next.
Higher or lower?
All right. I know that both of you think the Browns are ahead of this team, but the Rams ranked 5th. Should they be higher, lower, or are they just right from a big picture standpoint, Zegura?
In the tiering of this, if we were to break these into tiers, I think the top 4 are a tier, and then I think the Rams would be in a tier with us, and even the Ravens would be in that tier with us as well. So they're in the general direction, but we've already bumped the Browns up, so they're worse.
Bishop?
So
this is like this is a tough one for you.
Nephew.
LARD.
Yeah, it's my nephew.
Singing the praises of Stafford
Oh
on the reg.
gosh, it's amazing. You guys, I wish that that's one show that I don't do with you guys, but I would love to do, if you guys could just be a part of that show. We do that show from Manhattan Beach. We do it from the Strand. We overlook the Pacific. Matt comes by on the reg, stops by, brings the wife. It's wonderful.
Does he
Brings
ever
the
miss
girls.
me
It's
from
spectacular.
DLD? Or am I
Well,
forgotten?
you said some things on DLD that I think, he's Arya Stark. He takes notes.
I was a big
And
David
there was
Blau
a-
guy. Let's be honest.
You were a Blau guy. You were a big Blau guy. You diminished his accomplishments, and where I did not. Look, this is.
Gibbe talked about how he missed all those games, and that was unforgivable.
That's true.
Yeah.
That's true. Gibby called him soft, and that's why you're not producing the show, Gibby.
Yeah.
That's why you're not out at Manhattan Beach with me.
It's all right. I got
Here's what I
plenty
would
other
say.
things going on. I still have no faith.
Here's what I would say. He's going to light it up. And in this offense, he will light it up. That's a fact. But I don't know. I don't think enough attention is being paid to their losses defensively.
Agreed.
And I think that's the thing that keeps getting missed. He will elevate the offense, no question, and he will throw for a ton of yards. Like if you're fantasy, Woods, Cup, yep, Higbee, scoop them. But in terms of them on the field, I think their losses defensively are pretty significant with Johnson and Hill, and we just happen to have benefited.
That's right.
Next.
Higher or lower?
Ravens are 6, Browns 7, Seahawks 8. Takes us to number 9, the Tennessee Titans. And their person on the hot seat, outside linebacker Harold Landry III. Should they be higher, lower, or are they just right? I will go with Bishop here first.
I like what you did with the tiers because I think that there's a separation for me between Seattle, and I always think more highly of Seattle than you do, I acknowledge, but Seattle and Tennessee. I think Seattle is in the group with us and the Rams and the Ravens. They're in that group, and I think Tennessee is in the next group, a little bit down from that. And I do wonder, like, if they missed the window, if that was there, like at some point has to catch up with Derrick Henry. And so I would probably have them a little lower. I would probably have them below the 49ers.
Same.
I would probably have – see, the next 2 teams they have, though, is Dallas and Pittsburgh, and there's huge questions with both of those teams. I don't think, for example, that their roster is it better than Indy's? I don't know that it's better than Indy's. I don't know that it's better than the Chargers. I think it's kind of more in that range, so I would have them worse.
I'm stunned, honestly, that the Steelers are 11. That surprises me, and that Dallas is 12. Like, I don't think...
Huge question marks with those two franchises.
Like, right now, I like the Washington football team better than I like Dallas, especially if there are some questions with Dak's shoulder. But
sure.
So I think the Niners are in that same tier, honestly, with Seattle, and even I put them in the tier with us. Tennessee would be the last team in that tier for me. They're still Ryan Tannehill is a really good quarterback, and I think we still think of, you hear the name Ryan Tannehill, you're not thinking an elite quarterback, but that's what he's been. Derrick Henry is elite. The questions are on their defense, and can Julio Jones make up for the departure of Corey Davis and Jonnu Smith? Because I think that's a bigger loss than people are talking about, the tight end for Tennessee. I like them. I don't feel like they're a danger to win the Super Bowl. So maybe they're outside of that tier, because I do think that the Niners can. I think that the Seahawks can. I think we can. I think the Rams can. The Ravens can. And by the way, the fact that there are 3 NFC West teams in the top 9 for both of us, like, what a division.
Yeah, it's loaded. And by the way, the team that's 4 is pretty good, too. I mean, they're dangerous.
Yeah.
Next.
Higher or lower?
All right, so you guys already talked about them. We're going to jump down here a little bit. At number 10, the 49ers. At 11, the Pukers. 12 are the Cowboys. The Cardinals are 13, the Colts 14, 15, the Chargers, 16, the Dolphins, number 17, the New England Patriots. Should they be higher, lower, or are they just right, Zegura?
This is for who? Which team? The Cowboys?
No, it's for the Patriots.
Okay, you switched it. Okay.
Thanks
All right,
for
well,
paying
then
attention to the show. I did say we're
skipping
down.
Okay, fine. Yeah. I was reading something that I
A++.
thought was funny as you were going through the teams. The Colts hot seat is Rodrigo Blankenship, and they cut Eddie
Well,
Pinheiro
not
yesterday.
anymore.
Not anymore? I was just laughing about that.
Anymore.
So I apologize. Patriots, I can tell you they think that they're going to be good. They have some belief. Yeah. Some of the guys that have been on the team when it was pretty good think that this team has a chance to be good. I like the Washington football team better than them, but I do like them better than still Miami. I'm still not 100% sold, although Tua's had a nice preseason. He's actually looked He's looked pretty good throwing the football around. They've got a lot of talent there. I'm not so sure that the Chargers were ready to have the Chargers as high as they are. So I think the Patriots are maybe slightly better than 17. I'd put them at 16 because I think they're in the top half of the league because of the great coaching that they get.
This is the sweet spot for them. This is right about right. It's
right
in
yep.
here. I'd have them slightly better than Miami, but there's probably somebody that I think they're right in there. 15, 16, 17, somewhere in there. This is the sweet spot. But I think work out well for them. I think it could. I think he's exactly what they want at quarterback there, if that's the way that it eventually goes. Still so much more to come. You're listening to Cleveland Browns Daily on 850 ESPN Cleveland. Injuries during childbirth require experienced counsel. A couple lawyers at Lecount for clear answers to what happened during your child's birth. Lecount, a proud partner of your Cleveland Browns. Call 1-800-ELK, Ohio today. Have you seen the Spider-Man trailer? See?
I saw a couple of screenshots from it. I have not watched it yet. I was told by my kids they want to watch it together.
1 minute.
Is it good?
There you go.
Does it look good?
Gibbe, what did you think? What did you think, Gibbe, as a Spider-Man connoisseur? By the way, wait till you hear his story. Gibbe's connection to Spider-Man.
I'm excited anytime there's a Spider-Man movie. I'm a little too worried it might be a little over the top, but yet I will be there to watch it.
Yeah.
This kid's the best Spidey, right? This Tom Holland?
Yes.
Yes.
By far.
Better than Tobey
Of
Maguire.
all the people who...
30 seconds.
Gosh, yeah. And the other kid, the Andrew Garfield kid or whoever, yeah, this is the Spidey.
He's Spidey, no doubt.
Yeah, the first two were very, very...
20 seconds.
Well, hopefully it all works out. We know it's going to work out for you if you keep it locked here because the next level